On the warship, the cruel scents were revealed. They may be indifferent, sneer, cunning, or cruel. All are fierce and famous people in the sea. The one with the sword is Shiryu of Rain. Rumors and Magellan form the copper wall and iron wall of Impelled Down. The guy who is bigger than the giants is San Juan the Evil Wolf, who once lived and killed a country. There is also the previous generation of Shicibukai, Crocodile. The Evil King, Caitlin Demai, the most ferocious criminals in the sea, all escaped. A huge uproar. The Marines couldn't help but regress 2 steps subconsciously because of the fierce and bloody breath from the warship. Shiryu, you bastard, it's all good things you did. Sengoku's voice was filled with endless anger. Shiryu dangling his cigar, the corner of his mouth lifted. Marshal Sengoku, you can't blame me for all the blame. I'm just following Master Joker's orders. The faint words shocked everyone's hearts. Could it be that the man behind Impelled Down was destroyed? Although Sengoku had already guessed at this point, he couldn't help but feel an immense anger when he heard Shiryu say it with his own ears. Sengoku's face was exposed with blue veins, and he glared at Dover above the sky. Sure enough, you did everything. Dover smiled faintly. This unprecedented feast of war is not bad, Mr. Sengoku. You bastard. Dover's understatement made Sengoku more angry. Doflamingo, the account between us hasn't been settled yet. An angry shout came from Sengoku's side, accompanied by the clicking sound of his fists. It's the marine hero Garp. The grudge between Garp and Dover has been around for a long time. At first, Garp and Crane were on a warship to go to Dressrosa to investigate. As a result, the large thunderstorm that Dover used aligned to smashed his face and made Garp lose his face. Later, Garp even learned from Ace that it turned out that the fuse of his going to sea was because of that man. From this, Garp's anger at Dover is self-evident. Heavenly Yaksha, the old man has endured it for a long time. The chief staff officer also following Garp, stood up. Ha ha ha, Joker, you really have offended Marine executives all the time. Kaido laughed loudly, gloating with misfortune on his face. Dover shrugged. Facing the strong hostility of Marine's 3 veterans, he didn't care about it at all. Anyway, after today, Marine no longer exists. Oh. Do you want to do it, Joker? Kaido squeezed his fist, eager to try. The ant also said, it's time to let Marine have a taste of our greatness. No. Dover shook his head slightly, and gently stroked Hancock's thin waist with his fingers, looking in the direction of Whitebeard and Redhead. Someone is more anxious than us. When Kaido is eager to try to destroy Marine, his people would not even think that he would be killed. My lair, Wanokuni, is at stake now. Wanokuni, the manor of Dover. A luxurious woman with a golden hairpin is sitting on the top seat. Her skin is white and delicate, and her crimson lips are not a little bit red, like a Sakura peach. Her hair bun is high and topped, and it shows a compelling sense of responsibility and magnificence. This woman is Wanokuni's first beauty, Oiran Shaozi, and also Kozuki Oden's daughter, Kozuki Hyori. In the courtyard of the manor, thousands of people were waiting there quietly. Among them are Kozuki Oden's retainers, such as Inuarashi and Cat Viper, as well as fur warriors led by the 2. There is also the bandit that Xiao Zi later conquered, the former retainer Ashura Boy, and the renamed Shutenmaru. The rest is the Don Quixote family cadres and army headed by Pika, who Dover transferred from Dressrosa to help Xiao Zi. There is only one purpose for so many people here. That is, taking advantage of Kaido's battle with Marine at Marineford, Wanokuni was regained in one fell swoop and Kaido's nest was brought back. This day has finally come. Little Zime has tears in her eyes. Since the death of her father Kozuki Oden, the Kozuki family has fallen apart. She can only change her name to Oiran Shaozi, and she smiles strongly. And at this moment, she can finally get revenge, and can take back what originally belonged to her. Thank you, husband Sama-kun. Shaozi raised her head. Her eyes seemed to travel through the endless space, falling on the man she was thinking of, full of love and gratitude. At this time, a retainer came in from outside and told. My patriarch, there is news from Kuang Si Lang that he has successfully led away the guards of the general's mansion. Xiao Zi, the newcomer of the Kozuki family, stood up when he heard the words. Her pretty face instantly became solemn and cruel, showing the demeanor of the family. Okay, Chuanjiru did a good job. The head guard of the general's mansion, Kushiro, is actually even Chuanjiro, one of Kozuki's vassals. Everyone. Xiao Zime looked around at the scene. Her voice was pleasant and cold, suppressing excitement. It's time to rejuvenate the country. Please help the little girl. Fight against the big snake, fight against Kaido, and restore Wanokuni. In response to Xiao Zi, there was a thunderous cry. Of course, Hiwa-sama. Vengeance for Lord Odin, just today. Recover Wanokuni. In the next moment, thousands of soldiers, under the leadership of Xiao Zi, headed towards the general's mansion at lightning speed. The first step in the restoration of Wanokuni. It is the general mansion. Xiao Zi led thousands of people and went straight to General Wanokuni's mansion. At this moment, Kurozumi Orochi was still at a loss. At the general's mansion, singing and dancing were singing and dancing, and the wine was full of alcohol. The snake drank the wine in the bowl in one gulp. Although there are beautiful dancers dancing in the hall, Wanokuni's best delicacies are on the table. But the big ugly face of the big snake still carries a depressive atmosphere. The attendant poured wine on the big snake cautiously, for fear that he might be touched by the more and more grumpy general. The servants of the general's mansion also knew the reason why the general was so irritable and unhappy. That is, Mr. General's favorite woman, Wanokuni's first beauty, Oren Xiaozi, is not here. Moreover, it will never be possible to show up in the general's mansion again and dance to Lord Orochi. It's because Xiaozi is already the woman who sits on an equal footing with Governor Kaido, Lord Joker. Even if Joker is far away from the 11 countries of Japan, its prestige still shocks everyone. Rao is a big snake who has always been arrogant and dare not to offend Lord Joker. Hateful. The big snake suddenly lifted the table in front of him. The big ugly face twitched. As long as he thinks of Xiaozi, who should have belonged to him, when he thinks of that man, his anger can't stand it. Kaido, quickly destroy Marine, and then destroy that hateful Joker. The serpent yelled like crazy. This general will take back Xiaozi, take back Xiaozi. Oh? The general is going to take back the little girl. Slightly, there is no need. The little girl has already taken the initiative to send it to the door. Suddenly, a beautiful sound of a big snake was thinking about it, echoing in his ears. Da Snake stayed for a while, thinking that he had an auditory hallucination because he missed Xiao Zi too much. Unexpectedly, Xiao Zi's voice continued. What? The little girl is here, are you upset, Master General? The big snake suddenly recovered, raised his head, and looked out the door. I saw that a beautiful woman in red was walking towards him with lotus steps. Little Purple. The snake opened his mouth wide. Immediately afterwards, there was ecstasy. Xiao Zi, you came to see me, I know, you won't forget this general. The big snake started and ran towards Xiao Zi desperately, howling, drooling. Hey, of course they won't forget you anymore. A charming smile appeared on Xiao Zi's attractive red lips, but this smile gradually turned into a sneer. The voice became colder and colder from the charm of talent just now. Xiao Zi has been remembering you all the time for more than 10 years, Kurozumi Orochi. Sudden cold rebuke. I slapped the big snake, and even carelessly stepped on the food that he had just lifted to the ground. Oh plop. The big snake fell to the ground with one butt. It's really ugly. Even with someone like you are qualified to be Wanokuni's general? Xiao Zi is condescending, like a queen high above, looking down at the clown in the world. Xiao Zi, what are you talking about? The big snake fell a lot, but he still didn't react. Behind him, the waiter who had just poured wine for him shouted in horror. The general is not good. The enemy, the old man, broke into the general's mansion. What? The snake slapped a sharp spirit, and hurriedly raised his head. I saw that the general house, which was singing and dancing, was full of murderous air at this moment. Thousands of people broke into his general mansion at some unknown time. The guards were all subdued, and the attendants and dancers knelt on the ground, shivering. The snake was dumbfounded. In an instant, fell from heaven to hell. Marineford. How did Kaido know Wanokuni's situation at this time, and his person followed Dover's gaze and said with a smile. Whitebeard and Red Hair are indeed more anxious than us. Then we will sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. Below. Whitebeard's white gaze flicked over Kaido and the ant one by one, and finally fixed on Dover's body. This man, the old man, is also counted in this war? Through the conversation between Sengoku and others and Dover, Whitebeard vaguely understood. The Shicibukai that he never cared about, Doflamingo, is the driving force behind this war. And he, Whitebeard, was completely caught in this person's trap. It's a good way. Whitebeard gave Dover a deep look. Although it clarified the cause and effect of the matter, Whitebeard was already on a sack at the moment. This war cannot be stopped, we must continue to go under 750. This feeling of being used as a gun was the first time that Whitebeard had lived for more than 60 years, and it made him extremely unhappy. But unfortunately, he was helpless. Whitebeard, this is the uncontrollable situation I said before. Redhead walked up to Whitebeard at this time and sighed. Although Redhead noticed something was wrong earlier than Whitebeard, after all, nothing changed. Things have developed to this irreparable point. No need to say more. Whitebeard waved his hand and looked away from Dover, looking in the direction of the execution platform. In any case, Ace must save. As Dover said, the more chaotic the situation, the more eager Whitebeard's heart to save Ace. The same goes for Red Hair. He took a deep breath, knowing that no matter how the situation will develop, he must save Ace first. Otherwise, Whitebeard won't give up, and Shanks can't just watch Captain Rogers' son, still in a dangerous situation. The atmosphere became tense again. A battle that has stopped for a while is about to break out again. Wanokuni. The big snake is like an ice pit, looking at the enemies that are constantly pouring into the general's mansion. Among them are several familiar figures of the big snake. That was Odin's former retainer, like the guys named Inu Lan and Cat Viper. What the hell is going on? How come Odin's retainer appeared here? Has the old souls come back again? The snake couldn't believe his eyes. Unexpectedly, you still remember us? Inu Lan and Cat Viper stared at the big snake with hatred, and then said to Xiao Zi. His Royal Highness, let me kill this dog thief and pay tribute to Lord Odin's spirit in the sky. His Royal Highness. The snake stared at Xiao Zi, who was like a flower in jade. The Kozuki clan's retainers actually called her His Royal Highness? By the way, you still don't know my true identity. Xiao Zi said coldly. Listen well, Kurozumi Orochi. My name is Kozuki Hiori, and my father is Kozuki Odin, who was killed by you and Kaido. What? Da Snake's eyes were about to open, and he looked at Xiao Zi in disbelief. At the same time, the guards who used to protect the serpent, the servants who served the serpent, and the dancers who danced for the serpent also couldn't help but raised their heads and looked at Xiao Zi in shock. She is the daughter of Lord Odin, Lord Hiwa? In the next moment, these people who were supposed to be under Orochi suddenly knelt and bowed. Hiwa-sama, you are finally back. Please expel the Kurozumi clan, reproduce the Kozuki clan, and save Wanokuni. These people, although they have been serving around the serpent. But the brutality and cruelty of the serpent kept them daring to be angry but not speaking. Now, the daughter of the old master and the descendants of the real royal family have returned. They only have excitement and ecstasy. How can they continue to be loyal to the snake? Did you see? Little purple red lips are full of irony. Your evil deeds have already made Wanokuni angry and complained, and the great crimes you have committed are too numerous to document. Xiao Zi suddenly drew out the Tianyu Yu from his waist and pointed at the big snake. Today, I am going to cut off your head with my own hands to comfort my father and the souls of the people of Wanokuni who were killed by you. Talking. Xiao Zi waved the sky feathers, slashing towards the neck of the snake. There was endless horror in the eyes of the big snake, shaking and shouting. Don't kill me. Don't kill me, I am Wanokuna's general. Although Da Snake is also demon fruit power, he has never exercised since he is so easy to take care of. At this moment, Da Snake even forgot that he was a capable person. Moreover, under the stare of Inuarashi, Cat Viper and others, he did not have the opportunity to use his abilities. Wipe. Tianyu Yu was extremely sharp, and it slid across the neck of the snake with ease. Thump. The snake's head fell to the ground, and the whole floor was stained with blood. Xiao Zi held Tianyu Yuzhan tightly, her delicate body trembling lightly. She was killing for the first time. I slashed my enemy. However, killing the snake is not enough, and it is not enough to relax. Because, although Kaido is not in Wanokuni, there are Jack the Drow on the Ghost Island, as well as the barbarians. The atmosphere floating in Marineford is almost suffocating. There is Marine on one side, 4 emperors on the other, and the mysterious Joker. The horn of war is sounded again. On the other hand, Dover and Kaido stand high in the sky, standing on the sidelines and watching. Below, the Whitebeard pirates and Red Hair even know that they are thinking about reaping profit, but they have no way to save Ace as soon as possible. Little ones, charge forward with me. I saw Whitebeard sway the cloud cutting, splitting a terrible shockwave. The atmosphere burst, and all the marines blocking the front of Whitebeard flew up, opening a channel for the pirates to lead to the execution platform. On the other hand, the red hair also knew that time was urgent, and he showed his true ability. Under the cover of conquerors, the surrounding marines fainted before raising their weapons. With the power of the 2-4 emperors, the situation immediately appeared to be unfavorable for Marine. On the execution stage, Sengoku's face sank like water. Call out. A figure suddenly fell in front of Sengoku. Mr. Sengoku, the current situation is very bad. The visitor wore admiral epaulettes. It was Aokiji. Aokiji saw the 4 emperors all appearing in Marineford, and Impel Down had been destroyed, and was shocked by Dover's methods. Although Aokiji has long disapproved of the justice of the world government, Marineford is the place where he has performed his duties for decades, and he does not want Marineford to be destroyed by Dover. After all, Aokiji upholds a kind of mild justice. Even if he can't understand some behaviors of the government marine, he is unwilling to use excessive means. Sengoku glanced at Aokiji unexpectedly, was silent for a while, and said, "The situation has indeed deteriorated to the extreme. It can even be said that this is the biggest crisis that Marine has encountered since its establishment." Aokiji was silent, and then said, "Doflamingo, Kaido, and don't let it go." Hearing this, Sengoku's old eyes showed a trace of relief. In the bottom of Sengoku's heart, Aokiji is actually his next martial candidate. He also knew a long time ago that Aokiji did not agree with some of the government's measures. Therefore, Aokiji can still stick to the righteousness at this critical moment, and has enough overall view, so that Sengoku is very pleased. Aokiji, the old man did not misunderstand you. As for Doflamingo, they. Sengoku had "Wei-am-I" in his eyes and clenched his fists. Of course you can't let it go. It's not that easy to reap the benefits of the fisherman. The next moment, Sengoku Gedi took out a small purple gold telephone bug from his sleeve. "Hey, this is Sengoku." Soon, several majestic voices came from the phone worm. "We already know the situation at Marineford. Don't worry, Sengoku, we will send reinforcements soon." Flutter, the phone is turned off. Aokiji looked shocked. The voice that just came from the Zijin telephone worm. It is clearly the highest power center of the government. 5 elders. The pirate world is vast and boundless. But on the whole, it is divided into 4 sea areas by Grand Line and Red Line. The Grand Line has the first half and the second half. On the 2 sides of the Red Line that separate it, the Marine headquarters Marineford facing the front half, and the G1 branch facing the New World in the second half. As for the one protected by the naval headquarters and the G1 branch in the center and located on the mainland, naturally there is only the residence of celestial dragons, the supreme holy land. Mariajoy. Now, in the sacred place Mariajoy, inside the palace of the world's highest power center, 5 old people of different shapes are sitting on the luxurious sofa. On the table in front of the 5, there was a purple gold telephone bug that was exactly the same as the one that Sengoku had just brought out. The situation in Marineford cannot be delayed, and those guys have to be revealed in advance. Among the 5 elders, a man with a sword does it. "Do you want to tell Master Yim about this?" the old man of Whitebeard said. "It's a trivial matter, don't bother Master Yim." "That's right. If this little thing can be solved, Master Yim will definitely blame us." "But, how do you deal with that Doflamingo? He was once, but also a celestial dragon's." "Huh. Don't mention the traitor of damn it. He actually got along with those despicable inferiors, trying to destroy Marine. Let him fend for himself, if he can survive this war." 5 elders' tone was full of arrogance, and they had regarded Dover as a traitor through and through. However, from their conversation, it can be learned that they still haven't paid enough attention to Dover. And this, soon, will usher in an unimaginable disaster for Mariajoy. At the same time, another place in Mariajoy. An old man with white beard and hair, but still sturdy and powerful, got up from his chair. "Well, it's also the old man's turn to play. I haven't experienced a war for a long time, so I really miss it." The old man's face was actually eager to try. Then he shouted, "Come here, go and inform Cha Dolphin and Momoshagi, take Thossaguts and immediately go to Marine headquarters." "Yes. Master Commander." T-Dolphin and Momoshagi are admiral candidates who have been cultivated by Marine for a long time, and the only ones who can call these two and are called the Commander-in-Chief or the Marine Marshal before Sengoku, and the current World Government General Army Commander. Kong. Wanokuni, General House. After killing Orochi, Chuanjiro, who was aliased Kushiro, happened to return. And those guards who had been led away by him, the original guards of the snake, when they learned that Xiaozi was the real descendant of the royal family, and the patriarch of the Kozuki clan now, without exception, immediately bowed down to him. During the period when Orochi was in charge of Wanokuni, the brutal cruelty resulted in the loss of heart. It is not surprising that his original subordinates betrayed without hesitation, and turned to Xiaozi excitedly. And with the support of these people, the general mansion and the flower capital are stable, so there is no need to worry. Next, the Ghost Island is left. Xiaozi faces the direction of the Ghost Island. It's just that there is Jack the Drow and the legendary tyrant guarding it. I'm afraid it's not easy to attack. Madam Young, don't worry. A shrill voice sounded, but it was Pika who came from Dressrosa and was sent by Dover to help out. And the reason why Pika is called Mrs. Little Z Xiao, she knows her relationship with Master Xiao. Just listen to Pikabi respectfully saying, the tyrant army is made by the inferior artificial devil fruit Kaido obtained from the young master, but it is just a silver gun candlehead. Xiaozi was stunned. She didn't expect her husband Kun-sama to still have this hand. She couldn't help but smile. Especially when Pika called her young lady, her heart was even more exhilarated. His Royal Highness, as for Jack the Drow, leave it to both of us. Cat Viper and Inu Lan patted their chests, and then said again. What's more, not only the two of us, but even the Lord Elephant is here. The Elephant Lord? Xiaozi couldn't help but her beautiful eyes widened. The Elephant Lord is the carrier of our Zhao Island, and only Master Joker can order it, Inu Lan explained. At this moment, Xiaozi has Inu Lan, Cat Viper, Pika, Jushin Wan, and even Elephant Lord. On the opposite side, there is only one Jack the Drow, and there is no suspense about the outcome. At the same moment, on the Island of Ghosts, Jack, who was drinking, suddenly his eyelids twitched, and an inexplicable panic surged in his heart, as if something bad was about to happen. What happened? Jack put down the wine bowl in his hand, suspicious. Thought for a while, but didn't have any clues. No, Kaido, two elder brothers, Yamato, give me the protection of the Ghost Island, I can't make trouble. Jack was still worried after all, pointing to a little one and said. You, go to Orochi's general mansion to find out if anything unusual has happened to Wanokuni recently. Xiao hurried out, but not long after leaving the island, he was knocked out by a shadow. How can you confuse little purple sister in the plan of that adult? The shadow revealed her figure, but she was a slender, charming woman who was not under Xiaozi. This woman is Kaido's daughter, Yamato, on the Island of Ghosts. Jack is fidgeting, always feeling that something big is going to happen. The person who went to the general's mansion to inquire about the news just now, has he come back? No, Kaido, a subordinate. Jack looked sullen, drinking sullenly. Can only continue to wait. It didn't take long for a little guy to suddenly ran in. Master Jack, it's not good. People of the Kozuki clan attacked the island. Snapped. The wine bowl fell on the ground and broke into pieces. Jack stood up abruptly, and said angrily, what nonsense, the people of the Kozuki clan are already dead, how could they still appear? It's true. The little one said hurriedly, it's Xiaozi, she is Odin's daughter Kozuki Hyori, and the people who brought this time are the Inu Lan and the Cat Viper among the 9 heroes of the Scarlet Sky. What? These bastards. Jack was angry. The descendants of the Kozuki clan are still alive, and they dare to come to the Ghost Island. Is it because Jack the Drow doesn't exist? At the same time, on the shore of Ghost Island, when Xiaozi led a group of people to the island, Yamato, who had been waiting for a long time, immediately greeted him. Little purple sister, Sister Yamato. When the two women met, the 4 white and delicate hands, as tender as jade, were immediately held together. Go. I will lead the way, now only Jack is on the island, we can definitely succeed. Sister Yamato, thank you. For your credit, my sister will definitely tell our husband Mr. Kun. Yamato's pretty face suddenly turned red. What are you talking about? That's your husband Kun. Xiaozi smiled, as smart as she didn't know the true thoughts in Yamato's heart. She also stopped teasing Yamato. Under Yamato's leadership, she led thousands of people to the Kaido base camp. It was a gloomy palace, and the entire island was in the shape of a skeleton. When Xiao Zi and the others arrived, Jack had just rectified his forces, and the two sides happened to run into each other. Jack glanced over the person behind Xiao Zi. Inu Arashi, Cat Viper, Zhu Tianwan, Pika, Kuang Shi Lang. Of course, Yamato was automatically ignored by Jack. So many traitors, it just so happens that Laozi will kill you all in one fell swoop today. HMPH. What a big tone, Jack. Today is your death date, Zhu Tianwan sneered. Jack snorted coldly. The gap between the strength of the two sides was so big, but he still had such confidence. On the one hand, it is because Jack himself is an arrogant person. On the other hand, the hundreds of barbarian legions led by him are all artificial demon fruit power, which can be one enemy to 100. Give it to Laozi, kill them. Jack sighed heavily. Roar. In the next moment, the barbarian legion behind him turned into a strange beast. Roar. Hundreds of wild beasts roared together, and the fierce healing aura spread throughout the ghost island. Facing the charge of these hundreds of beasts, many people in the small purple belt turned pale. It's all silver gun candlesticks, look at me. Pika walked to the front and pressed his hands on the ground, and instantly his arms sank into the ground. Pika is a stone fruit ability person who can manipulate stones at will. Seeing his arms tremble, the ground immediately rolled like a wave. Thump thump, and those savage tyrants who seemed to be aggressive, actually stood unsteadily, all fell to the ground, and many of them were directly crushed to death. See this scene. Jack was dumbfounded. The big eyes, like copper bells, opened to the extreme, bloodshot. Marineford. The war is fiercer than before. Under the fierce attack of Whitebeard and Red Hair pirates, Marine retreated steadily. Above the sky, Dover, Kaido, Auntie and others were watching. But in the face of such a situation, Sengoku's face became more and more calm. Sengoku, the old boy, doesn't seem to panic at all. Kaido found an anomaly. The ant smiled triumphantly. Just pretend to be, otherwise Marine will be defeated faster. When Dover heard this, his eyes flickered, and he sneered at the ant's words. How could Sengoku pretend? It is clearly waiting for a newcomer. For this second player, Dover ordered Stussy and CP9 to find out clearly. And the reason why Dover didn't rush to attack Marine just now was because he was waiting for the arrival of those back players. Also, on this battlefield, there is still a hidden force that cannot be ignored. That is the Revolutionary Army. Dover's eyes seemed to pass over the figures of a few ordinary Marines, intentionally or unintentionally. These seamen were actually disguised by the Revolutionary Army. While they pretended to fight the pirates, they quietly approached the execution platform. It's almost approaching. Ace is waiting. I'm here to save you. Sabo, the second in command of the Revolutionary Army, posing as a Marine soldier, looked at Ace on the execution stage and thought to himself. However, without warning, his heart glared abruptly, as if being stared at by some terrifying character. Who discovered me? Sabo's face changed slightly. It's just that the scene is too chaotic, and Sabo can't be sure whether the feeling in his heart is true. Anyway, I must save Ace, and then I have to be more careful. Take a deep breath to suppress the anxiety in my heart. Sabo continued to move slowly towards the execution platform. Dover looked back. Only Sabo and the 4 commanders of the Revolutionary Army came this time, but the others, especially the leader Monkey D. Dragon, did not come. Is it because the old man Garp is not here, or is there something more important? Dover was thinking about it, and there was a vague guess in his mind. It didn't take long. Dover raised his brows, his big hands gently stroked Hancock's exaggerated waist and eyeline, his eyes looking in a certain direction. Marine's backhand, here comes. The port of Marineford. Whitebeard threw a punch. The air shattered, the earth broke apart, and Vice Admiral, the giant who came to attack Whitebeard, bleeds from the 7 orifices. The power of shock fruit is really terrifying. Haha. Marines surrender as soon as possible. The strength of the father is not something you can stop. The pirates' side, because of the power of Whitebeard, has become more and more vigorous. But suddenly, Whitebeard, who was about to call the younger ones to rush forward, changed his expression abruptly. He felt that an unusual aura was approaching. Little ones, stop the attack temporarily, Whitebeard shouted. What? Marco and the others were in a daze. Before they had time to ask, they only heard an old and heroic laugh, coming from the back of the Marine headquarters. Ha ha ha, Whitebeard, you really are not old, you have noticed the arrival of 270 so quickly. Who? Whether it was pirates or Marine, they were all taken aback. Of course, Sengoku is not among these people. Master Commander, you are finally here. Sengoku looked back and bowed slightly. A sturdy old man is coming with swift steps. On both sides, a man and a woman followed. The man is grinning, unruly, and as Admiral's alternate T-Dolphin. The woman is beautiful and charming. She is also an Admiral candidate, Momoshagi. The Marines were surprised, especially when they saw the strong old man. Immediately afterwards, there was ecstasy. Commander, it's Lord Commander Kuang who is here. Master Kuang, who is that? The young Marine was puzzled. Stupid, I don't even know Master Kuang. He is Marshal Marine before Master Sengoku, and the Commander-in-Chief of the government today. Hiss. That's great. The arrival of Kuang immediately injected a heart-lifting agent into Marine, and the morale was greatly boosted. Unexpectedly, you old fellow appeared on the stage. Whitebeard looked at Kuang deeply, and said solemnly. Kuang laughed loudly. This time you are making a lot of noise, and the old man can't take a rest if he wants to. Besides, it's not just the old man who came here. As soon as Kuang's voice fell, on the steps around the port, Jhin appeared huge shadows. What the hell? The pirates were shocked. The huge shadow appeared, and it was actually a cold mechanical monster. And looking at the shape of the monster, it is actually somewhat similar to Kaido. Above the sky, Kaido's face instantly became extremely ugly. Asshole, they actually made this thing. What is this, and how does it relate to you? The ant was also surprised by the shape of the monster. Kaido's muscles twitched, but he didn't want to mention his embarrassment. However, even if it didn't say anything, Dover, who had the perspective of a traverser, could still see the connection between the monster and Kaido at a glance. Kaido was caught by Marine and Vegapunk researched the blood factor. If I'm not wrong, these monsters should be made based on Kaido's blood factor. Regarding the use of the body or blood of the strong to make weapons, the world government also has early precedents. For example, the pacifist who was robbed by Dover on Punk Hazard combined the body of the violent Kun Bear with the laser of Kizaru. Then, the conversation between Sengoku and Kuang confirmed Dover's conjecture. Unfortunately, this war broke out too early and too suddenly. Otherwise, these Kaido-based weapons will be more perfect in a few years. Sengoku sighed. Kuang said, without the pacifists, you can only take these guts on top. However, although they are not as good as we originally estimated, they are sufficient to replace Shicibukai, but they are also sufficient to deal with ordinary pirates. It turns out that these monsters are the weapons of the government that abolished the Shichibukai system in the original work and intends to replace them with Shichibukai. Only. Nowadays, due to the premature appearance, Vegapunk has not completely perfected these weapons, and their power is still quite inferior to Shichibukai. However, if so, they are still enough to pose a great threat to the vast majority of pirates in this war. Not to mention Kaido recalls the embarrassing past because of the government's secret weapon. Just saying that Kaido was killed, I would not have thought that he had run the lair for decades, and the Island of Ghosts was already in danger. How could it be impossible? Jack's eyes are splitting. I watched him as a backing, and the army of barbarians that Kaido boss had placed high hopes on. Actually, because the ground shook a few times, it was almost dead and wounded. This Jack couldn't believe his eyes. How could a zone-capable person be so vulnerable? It makes no sense. And when Jack's eyes fell on Pika, suddenly, he finally realized something. A boundless shock and panic flooded his heart. That person should be Joker's subordinate. And the abilities of these barbarians are also the man-made devil fruit provided by Joker. And the daughter of Kozuki Oden, Xiaozi, and even the woman of Joker. Could it be that, the more Jack thought, the more frightened, and the fear that couldn't be contained filled his body? Joker had the idea of destroying Kaido boss from the beginning? Jack panicked completely. He gasped, almost asphyxiated. And on the side of Xiaozi, Jack didn't give Jack more chances to breathe. Little Ziyu raised her hand and said softly, everyone, Kaido's lair has no resistance. Let's destroy the Ghost Island. Roar. Thousands of tribes rushed towards Kaido's base camp with hatred towards Kaido. Master Jack. One of Jack's henchmen, with a panic face. They have killed them, and the tyrants are not good enough. What should we do? The shouts of his men seemed to wake Jack up all at once. Jack seemed to be back to light, suddenly lifted his spirits, and let out a loud roar. How to do? Destroy the enemy. Lousy is Jack the Drow. After speaking, Jack turned into a mammoth elephant, and rushed towards thousands of enemies alone. But just a few steps after it rushed out, Ghost Island suddenly shook violently. The earth and rocks collapsed and the earth cracked, as if the entire island was about to collapse. What's going on again? Jack, who was transformed into a mammoth, raised his head blankly. On the sea, a giant elephant of indescribable size was slowly approaching the island of ghosts. That giant elephant is so big that Jack's mammoth is like an ant, insignificant. Like Lord. In Jack's eyes, endless fear and despair were instantly revealed. He knows. I'm over, the Ghost Island is over, and Wanokuni is over. Even the boss of Kaido in Marineford, I'm afraid it will be more fortunate. Jack is dead, and the Ghost Island is over. Kaido, who is still ignorant about this, has his muscles tensed at the moment, ready to do a big fight at any time. Since Kong has arrived, Marine probably won't allow us to watch from the sidelines anymore. Dover smiled meaningfully. Huh. Lousy can't wait long ago. Kaido squeezed his fist and creaked. The ant stared at the monster weapons based on Kaido. Ha. Well, the government really mastered the giant method. Joker, you really didn't lie to me. Ant's dream is to create a world where everyone is equal. Equality is physical equality, which means that people must be the same age as the ant. It is willing to participate in this war. Of course Kaido's lobbying, but the giant method of capturing Marine is also an important reason. Below. As Dover said, the arrival of Kong and reinforcements gave Sengoku a sigh of relief. At this point, although the enemy has four emperors, there is also a guy who does not know the depth of Doflamingo. But their Marine's top powerhouses are also all present. Count them down, with him Sengoku, San Admiral, Garp, and Kong. The top combat power is also not lost at all. Especially, Sengoku knows that Whitebeard and Kaido are not necessarily in the same group. Although Whitebeard, Kaido, and the Ant were once members of Rock's Pirate, their relationship is not harmonious, and it can even be said to be bad. This point can be used for one or two. While Sengoku's thoughts were turning, he took off the coat of the marshal that represented Marine's highest status. Taking a deep breath, Sengoku opened his mouth and the sound resounded throughout the Marine headquarters. All Marine comrades, at this moment, it is the biggest crisis that Marine has encountered since its establishment. But please don't be afraid, don't hold back. In order to defend the majesty of Marine, for the justice we carry, and to protect the safety of the world, we must go all out to defeat the enemy. A majestic declaration brought Marine's morale to the apex in an instant. Haha, Sengoku, letting you take over as Marshal Marine is really the most correct decision the old man made in his life. Kong laughed. Let the old man, a dying veteran, also give play to the last remaining heat. The next moment, Kong slammed on the ground, his body shot out like a cannonball. Whitebeard, let the old man be your opponent. Kong actually aimed at the strongest Whitebeard. Whitebeard's eyes condensed, and then grinned. Then you have to be careful. I hope your handful of old bones are as hard as your title, Kong. With that, Whitebeard punched. Ha ha ha, after all, we are all from the old age, Newgate. Kong was not afraid, and threw a punch equally without showing weakness. The two fists did not touch each other, but the space in the center of the two fists made an overwhelming sound. An immense wave of air spread. The surrounding rocks cracked inch by inch, and people couldn't even get within 10 meters of these two people. It is the collision between the world's top powerhouses. It's amazing. This kind of power is simply terrifying. However, people were shocked before it was too late. Because immediately afterwards, more top powerhouses all began to take action. The old man has acted too, Sengoku. Garp squeezed his fist, his eyes fixed on Dover in the sky. Heavenly Yaksha, the account between us should be forgotten. Garp Sengoku looked at his old friend who had been fighting with him for decades. Even though he knew Garp's strength, he couldn't help but exhorted. Be careful, that guy is not that simple. Garp laughed. Just knowing this, the old man has to try his depth. After that, Garp stepped on the moonwalk and flew towards the sky. Joker, you have been targeted by a terribly old guy. High in the sky, Kaido said a little gloating. Dover looked indifferent, and could not see any changes in his inner mood. He looked at Garp, the hero who leapt towards him. Garp's strength is actually a mystery. In the original work, it has been contrasted in the form of side. The few shots are basically crushed. Dover is also quite curious about Garp's true strength. Little Hancock, next, you will have to stay a little bit further. Dover whispered beside Hancock's crystal earlobe, and then let go of his large hand that was holding his slender waist. Hancock has actually woken up from the brain a long time ago. As the dignified pirate empress, she is not stupid even though she is in love. It is not an occasion to talk about love. However, when Hancock repeatedly tried to get out of Dover's arms, the opponent's big hand stroked her waist, making her immediately lose strength. Now, Dover let go of her waist, but Hancock did not leave immediately. I saw the world's first beauty with his head buried in Dover's broad chest, pursing his red lips, and said in a voice that only two people could hear. You have to be careful. Immediately, it floated away. Dover stared at Hancock's shadow, and the smell of his nose stayed for a long time. Dover couldn't help but smile, and he became more fond of this woman. Below, Shiryu and others who came out of Impel Down, saw the marine hero Garp, and found their nominal boss. They couldn't help but look different. Hey, Sand Crocodile, shall we help the Joker boss? The evil king smiled. Yeah, Garp is Marine's hero. If the boss is injured, it would be shameless. Big wine barrels and other murderous criminals followed playfully. Although they surrendered to Dover in name, it was the first time they saw him. It was naturally impossible to say how loyal and respectful they were. Shiryu dipped his cigar, glanced at these unruly guys, and said to Crocodile. You have been with Master Joker the longest. Master Joker should be fine, right? Crocodile, who was questioned by the crowd, was now looking deeply at Dover's figure. It has not been seen for many years. The man seems to have not leaked hockey like Alabasta, which is daunting. As a result, the ignorant tactics of the evil kings dare to be contemptuous. Crocodile couldn't help but sneer, and said disdainfully. You take care of yourself. On the other end, Hancock, who had left Dover's arms, fell on the ground, but his beautiful eyes never left the man's stalwart figure. Although, Dover's image in Hancock's mind, in addition to obsessive love, is closer to a god. However, Hancock's heart still hangs. When Hancock was looking at Dover's figure with concern and ignorance, a group of unopened Marines stood in front of her. Boya Hancock, what is your relationship with Doflamingo? Headed by this group of Marines, is a burly, sharp-eyed man with a captain rank on his shoulders. This person was actually dangling 2 cigars, the smoke was all around, and behind him was a graceful girl holding a sword. Who are you? Being blocked from sight, Hancock's pretty face was frosty, and his voice was extremely cold. I'm Marine Captain Smoker. Answer my question just now, Boya Hancock. This smoky guy is not Smoker. Who has the ability to smoke fruit, and who is it? And the beautiful girl behind Smoker is naturally Toshigi. Smoker. The unknown person who has never heard of is not only a disgusting man, but also an idiot who dares to offend his concubine. Hancock looked arrogant. It was the tall empress who looked down on the mediocre mortals in the world. You bastard, Smoker, who had never been so underestimated and humiliated, was immediately very angry. However, before he could finish his words, a red high-heeled shoe had been kicked into his face. What, the speed is so fast? Smoker's eyes widened, there was no time to react, and he was kicked out hundreds of meters away, rolled on the ground, and couldn't get up for a long time. Smoker Captain. Toshigi Warong paled and ran over to check Smoker's injury. The culprit, Hancock, didn't look at Smoker at all, as if he had just done a trivial thing. Hancock's beautiful eyes were again placed on Dover in the sky without blinking. Boom. Boom. Garp stepped on the moonwalk, and the air seemed to become a solid under his feet. Finally, Garp came to Dover. Heavenly Yaksha, did you instigate Ace to be a pirate? Garp came up with a question. Dover stood with his hand in hand, and said lightly. So what is it? What is it not? Even without me, the one who should come will eventually come. Garp couldn't understand the mystery in Dover's words, but the information he wanted had already been obtained. Garp gave a pair of iron fists, rubbing tightly. Very well. Plus the old man's previous account, I will forget it with you today. The next moment, Garp's fist was covered with a layer of black armament hockey. As a fruitless powerhouse, the reason why Garp was able to destroy Rock's pirate, and the reason why he was able to push Roger into despair dozens of times, relied on his superb armament haki, and relied on his pair of iron fists. Haki like this is indeed an iron fist Garp who ranks among the top powerhouses by relying on physical skills alone. Dover's eyes condensed, and a war intent was born in his heart. He has passed through to the present, although he has played against many top powerhouses such as Kaido, Aokiji, and Hawkeye. But Haki's confrontation alone has never happened before. And Garp, undoubtedly an expert at Haki, is an excellent trial opponent. Buzz. Unparalleled, no less than Garp's armed color, it also covers the fist, making it black. And when Garp hit with a fist, Dover also slammed out with a punch. People found that Joker used Haki and Garp Vice Admiral head-to-head, and couldn't help but gloat. Then Joker is going to be unlucky. He can fight Garp Vice Admiral against Haki mortals. Except for One Piece Roger, there is no one yet. Yes, it is said that even Marshal Sengoku is not as armed as Garp Vice Admiral. Hearing these comments from Marine, the Evil King and others smiled again. Don't you really need to help the Joker boss? The Joker boss seems to have chosen the wrong way to confront the enemy. Hey, even those of us who are not afraid of these days, and have heard of the reputation of Tekken Garp, how can we go head-to-head with him? The boss of Joker is misguided. They questioned, with some mockery on their faces. However, in the next quarter of an hour, the mocking color on their faces instantly solidified. I saw it. Garp's iron fist and Dover's fist finally collided. Neither of them uses Haki, which wraps their fists like emission, but is simply armed. The two fists are not separated from the air like Whitebeard and Kong, but fist to fist, real collision. Wei Kuang Wei, as soon as the fist touched, it made a metal-piercing sound. Noisy, there were sparks, and the sound alone made many people feel dizzy. Joker actually blocked Garp Vice Admiral's fist. The person who questioned just now was dumbfounded, and his heart was shocked. As Garp himself, his expression has changed slightly. Even though he didn't underestimate Doffer, he was surprised by the fact that the opponent caught a punch so easily. It seems that the strength of this day and night is even stronger than the old man had imagined before. Old man, you can't keep your hands. A thought flashed through his mind, and the strength on Garp's fist and Haki suddenly doubled. Oh, do you have any reservations? Dover's eyes flashed, and he unceremoniously doubled his strength and Haki. Buzzing. In the void, there seemed to be thunder and lightning roaring. The endless black Haki, wrapped around the two of them, dyed the sky black. And in the center of the fist collision, wisps of purple and black lightning appeared, and then turned into circles of black ripples, rippling around. Infinite power, soaring into the sky. The dark clouds are rolling, the sea is roaring, and even the sky seems to be cracking. Such a shocking sight made everyone on the field stunned and petrified. And the Evil King and others who questioned Dover's strength just now have their eyes protruding, and their jaws are almost shocked. With Dover and Garp as the center, the black Haki waves are sweeping across the country. For a time, the wind and the clouds moved, and the colossal aura was overpowering the world. This terrifying power even surpasses the confrontation between Whitebeard and Kong just now. Throughout Marineford, people involuntarily stopped their movements and watched this scene in amazement. The criminals who came out of the 6th floor of Impel Down, the expression on their faces at this moment was like seeing a ghost, and it took a long time to laugh. The Joker boss is really powerful, I should really suck my mouth just now. Yuji Shiryu suppressed the shock in his heart. Although he didn't say anything just now, he actually had doubts about the strength of Dover he saw for the first time. But now, Shiryu's original suspicion has completely disappeared. Crocodile's eyes showed admiration and submissiveness unconcealed at this time. The former 7 warlords of the sea, who was originally ambitious in Alabasta, is now convinced of Dover's unpredictable methods and unparalleled strength. At the other end, Sengoku's expression was extremely solemn, and Dover was so powerful that he was also extremely shocked. In addition, Admiral Aokiji, who has seen Dover's strength, and Eagle Eye, the world's largest swordsman, also sighed in their hearts. That man's strength seems to be stronger than before. Or, he never used his true strength when he and I confronted. Even Whitebeard and Kong are scornful. Ha ha ha. Whitebeard, our limelight was robbed by young people. Whitebeard looked at Dover's figure in the sky with a light from the corner of his eyes, and said, "We are all remnants of the era. The old boy Garp is also old, and the future will eventually be the world of young people. But, Sora, the stronger the man. This is not a good thing for you, Marine. Kong's expression changed. Whitebeard was right. He already knew that the man named Doflamingo was the man behind this unprecedented war. The person, even more so, united with Aunt Kaido, in a vain attempt to destroy Marine. This kind of threat is almost comparable to the rocks of the past. What a terrible young man, Kong sighed deeply. But at this time he had no choice but to take one step at a time, and his duty at the moment was to stop Whitebeard. The top powerhouses, all because of Dover's performance, showed deep fear, including Red Hair, Beckman, Akainu and Kizaru. Gia ha ha ha. Little ones, take advantage of Marine's distraction and kill them by surprise. It was Kaido, who did not know when, came to the fleet he had brought from Wanokuni. With a loud cry, the pirates who were headed by Jhin and Quay immediately screamed and killed Marine. Not good. 4 Emperors Kaido has acted. An elite vice admiral was shocked, and was about to draw his sword to resist, when Kaido had a mace, and his brain broke. Kill. Kill all Marine. Kaido looked up to the sky and laughed wildly. Damn it. Sengoku's face was extremely ugly when he saw this scene. Secret troops, stop them. Yes, Mr. Sengoku. Momoshagi and the T-Dolphin took the lead, and immediately led the monsters made based on Kaido to attack. These monsters deserved to join Kaido's lineage factor. They were powerful and their defenses were amazing. For a while, the group of pirates who had been killed were unable to fight back. But this situation was quickly broken. A huge pink figure landed among these monsters. Well, let me catch you and go back and study the secrets of giantization. This huge figure is the 4 Emperors Big Mom. Compared to the monsters that were created, the ant is the real monster. Whether it was a cannonball or a sword, it fell on her without leaving a trace. What? As soon as the ant stretched out her hand, she shot dozens of Marines and lifted a monster weapon like an ant. Weird monster. The Marines were horrified, terrible fear of the ant. Kaido and the ant's attack could not be stopped by ordinary Marines alone. It seems that the old man has to take action too. Sengoku took a deep breath, and then the golden light was released, and in a blink of an eye it turned into a huge golden Buddha statue. Sengoku, the Buddha, appeared. Kaido, let the old man teach you this, kid. Sengoku rose into the sky and fell from the sky. The huge golden Buddha's palm slapped Kaido with a powerful shockwave. The half-done guy, prepare the coffin as soon as possible. Kaido was furious, his arm muscles bulged like a mountain, and his mace was wrapped with purple-black lightning. Thunder 8 trigrams. When Sengoku stopped Kaido, there was also a tall figure standing in front of the anti-library Kuzan Admiral. Marines were overjoyed. It was Aokiji who came to stop the ant. Huh. Aokiji let out a breath, and the air froze. Can't let you be so unscrupulous anymore, Big Mom. Although Aokiji does not agree with the justice of the world government, protecting people's lives is the justice in his heart. Hey. The ant smiled sharply. Then you can give it a try, Frozen Kid. The battle between the two broke out immediately. For a time, the top powerhouses on the entire battlefield all fought together. Specifically, they are Dover vs. Garp, Whitebeard vs. Kong, Kaido vs. Sengoku, Anti vs. Aokiji, Redhead vs. Akainu, Beckman vs. Kizaru. So many duels between the world's top powerhouses are earth-shattering, unparalleled in the past and the present. This is a huge battle that cannot be described in words. 4 Emperors of New World, Marshal Admiral at the apex of Marine. These people, usually just one person, is enough to make the situation change and a country surrenders. And at this moment, they are all gathered in Malinfan, a lot. Between the gestures, exuding with great power. When they collided with each other, thunder and lightning flashed, and the sky fell apart. Gudong, a Marine Rear Admiral, swallowed and turned pale. This is terrible. I feel like I shouldn't be here. Including those New World big pirates who are offering hundreds of millions of dollars in rewards, they are also in shock at this time, and they shrink their necks subconsciously. Even though their strength is good, they are as fragile and small as children in front of the top powerhouses who move the world with their hands. Don't be distracted. Although the boss of the pirate side has been dragged down, the enemy still has 3 plagues and captain-level characters. Marine Elite Vice Admiral Mole shouted. Hey, didn't you forget us at all? Plague Quinn chuckled his mustache and smiled. Wherever he passed, poisonous gas spread, making the necks of marine soldiers around him appear strangely green and painful. Beside Quinn, there were flame embers, and the flames filled his whole body, and Marine died when he touched it. Admiral is not here, because we are not their opponents at all. The Marines stepped back, wherever they could stop Quinn and Jhin. Two of them, leave it to us. Admiral Alternate Momosagi and T. Dolphin walked over. The other side. Marco, the captain of the Whitebeard division, grinned when he saw Quinn and Jhin being stopped by the two Admiral Alternates. Now, no one can stop me. Marco opened the wings of the Phoenix behind his back and flew fast towards the execution platform. Ace. I'm here to save you. Ace on the execution stage, in fact, has been in a certain state of perplexity since the beginning. He vaguely realized that the purpose of this war was probably not just to kill him by this time. Ace looked up, staring blankly at the figure of the stalwart man who was fighting with Grandpa Garp, who was still relaxing like a walk in the garden. In a daze, he seemed to have returned to the deserted island a few years ago. At that time, he wanted to hunt a big pirate, known as East Blue, but met Dover and was easily crushed by that man. That was the first time Ace realized his weakness. At that time, he swore that one day he would defeat that man and become the strongest in the world. However, after meeting the old man Whitebeard, Ace's mind changed. The warmth and freedom Whitebeard gave him made Ace forget his original intention to go to sea, and even deliberately forget the existence of that man. But now, when the man fought with Grandpa Garp, his boundless power has once again deeply impacted Ace's soul. Ace. I'm here to save you. Ran yelled to make Ace come back to his senses. Marco? Marco was already close to the execution platform and saw that Ace was unharmed, and smiled. Get your energy up, Ace. Dad and everyone are fighting desperately for you. Ace's tears filled his eyes all at once. It was the warmth of home that made Ace willingly forget his ambitions and stay on his father's boat. Hey, kid, don't think that if Sengoku and the others are not there, no one will guard here. Just as Marco was about to arrive at the execution platform, something happened suddenly. An old voice suddenly rang in his ears. At the same moment, a thin old man stood in front of him. Marco slammed the brakes, staring at the short figure in front of him, and raised his eyes. The old man should go home and take a good rest. I don't want to bully the old man. Hee. Young people don't talk big words casually. The thin old man is Marine's chief advisor, Crane. Although Marco said on the surface that he did not want to bully the elderly, he also knew very well that Suru is the same generation of Marine veterans as Garp and Sengoku, and his strength should not be underestimated. As for Crane, he actually wanted to fight Dover with Garp, but he just happened to notice Marco and came to stop him. And when Crane confronted Marco, he didn't notice that a sea soldier, quietly had already boarded the execution platform. Good chance. The Marine soldier looked around for a long time and saw the tricky character of Marine, who was not paying attention to him at the moment. Immediately, no longer waiting, the speed suddenly accelerated to the extreme. With just a breath, I came to Ace's side, and before Ace could react, he took him away from the execution platform. Who? Hearing the movement not far away, the Crane turned around abruptly, and immediately found that Ace was rescued by a seaman. Asshole, what are you doing? Crane yelled. Marco also watched this scene in astonishment. What's happening here? Sengoku, who was fighting Kaido, heard the Crane's voice, and his face changed a lot. No, Ace was rescued. Who is it that pretends to be a sea soldier? And the rescued Ace was also full of doubts. Who are you? Why do you want to save me? Ha ha ha, Ace, I never thought that after so many years, you don't even know me. The sea soldier let out a familiar laugh, making Ace stunned, and a childhood memory suddenly appeared in his mind. And when the sea soldier turned his head, and Ace saw his face clearly, his face suddenly showed an unbelievable color. Sabo, it's you. The person who rescued Ace wasn't Sabo, the second in command of the Revolutionary Army, who was disguised as a seaman and kept hidden in the dark, but who was it?